You know, one of the things that I like to smell, especially when I'm cooking, is freshly chopped onion and crushed garlic in a pan, in a pot, you know, a bit of oil, and you just fry that up. It's just a really nice smell. But I guess for me, the best smell that I like with food is freshly baked bread. When I was at high school and university, I was given the opportunity to work in a big bakery, Tip Top Bread in Auckland, New Zealand, and I would be on the conveyor belts where the freshly baked bread will come out of the oven, and we would have to stack them into big areas where the fans would cool down the bread before we cut it up and put them into bags. Lunchtime came. What we would do, my mates and I, we would grab a freshly baked hot bread. What was usually white bread. I know it's not the most healthy probably, and we would take it into our lunchroom and just break it open. You couldn't cut it. We'd just break it open. We'd put butter, we'd put a jam, we'd put our tomatoes or cheese or whatever sandwich we wanted to make, and it was just really beautiful. And a number of years ago actually, my wife and I had a bread making machine. And would put the ingredients into the machine and then let it cook overnight, especially in the morning, and then when we wake up, just this sweet aroma of freshly baked bread. I don't know about you, but I'm getting hungry, and I just love that smell. But you know, bread is made up of flour, salt, water, or some kind of liquid, plus yeast. Yeast is one of the most important ingredients when it comes to making bread, because it makes the bread rise. But you know, Jesus talked about yeast. He said in Matthew 13 verse 33, he's telling his followers, his disciples, a parable, and he says this: "The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed into a large amount of flour until it worked all through the dough." So here Jesus is saying yeast is like the kingdom of heaven. Why did he say that? You see, the Jews thought that yeast represented sin, represented evil. But Jesus saw beyond that. He was saying, no, yeast is like the kingdom of heaven. One of the important things about yeast, it's tiny, but it's powerful. The yeast compared to the flour ratio is very small, and yet it makes the bread and that flour to rise up. But also, yeast works from the inside out. It works in the dough, and that's why it needs to be in all of the dough, and that's why you need to knead it really hard. Nowadays we have machines that do that. But just like yeast works from the inside out, Jesus, who is the kingdom of heaven, when he comes into our life, he can work from the inside out. You know, I know some of you out there that are viewing this video, you think you are not good. You think that you're nothing. But God can send his son into your heart, and he can come and transform you from the inside out. Just like the yeast transforms the bread from something small and can make it can make it rise into something big. Jesus can do the same for you and I. We need to let the yeast of God's grace, which is another representation of what yeast stands for, God's grace. When we invite God's grace into our life, he can do the transforming. He can make us into what he wants us to be. And so the challenge for us is, what is stopping you from accepting and being the yeast of God's grace? What is stopping you from being the kingdom of heaven here on earth? My prayer for you and I is that we will be the yeast for God, and that we will invite God into our life, and that he will be the yeast in all areas of our life and will transform our lives for good.